Welcome into the presence of Jesus, the teacher who speaks with truth wrapped in compassion and authority shaped by love. He does not call you from a distance, nor does he wait for you to become perfect before inviting you closer. Jesus welcomes you as you are, with your questions, your weariness, your hope, and your hidden struggles. His teachings are not heavy burdens meant to crush you, but living words meant to free you, realign you, and restore what life has worn down. He teaches not merely through commands, but through example, showing how to love without condition, forgive without limit, serve without pride, and live with integrity in a fractured world. In his voice, correction becomes care, and truth becomes light rather than accusation. Jesus teaches that greatness is found in humility, that strength is revealed through surrender, and that peace grows where trust takes root. He invites you into a way of life where faith is lived, not performed, and where transformation begins in the heart before it appears in actions. As you listen, you are not entering a place of fear or obligation, but a path of freedom, healing, and purpose. This is his welcome. Come, learn from me, walk with me, and discover the life you were always created to live. My child, come close and listen with the deepest part of your heart, for what I speak now is not meant to frighten you or overwhelm you, but to awaken what has been sleeping within you for far too long, to stir the places that grew quiet, not because they were empty, but because they were tired of waiting to be heard. I speak to you not as a judge standing at a distance, but as a father who has watched you grow, stumble, endure, survive, and carry far more than you were ever meant to carry alone. When you sense disappointment in my voice, understand that it is not disappointment rooted in anger or rejection, but in love that sees the vast capacity I placed inside you and knows how little of it you have been able to release. It is the ache of a father who sees treasure buried beneath fear, strength hidden beneath compromise, and destiny delayed beneath survival. I am not disappointed in who you are. I am burdened by how much you have settled for, by how often you have adapted to pain instead of allowing me to heal it, by how long you have learned to coexist with chains I always intended to break. I speak now because silence would no longer be love. I speak because you have reached a moment where remaining comfortable would cost you more than facing truth. Tonight is not about destruction, even if it feels intense. It is about transformation, about the sacred work of reordering, about shaking loose everything that has attached itself to you but was never part of my original design. What you feel stirring in your home, in your thoughts, in your emotions is not the collapse of your life, but the collapse of what has quietly drained it. I am not tearing down your walls to leave you exposed. I am removing what has been leaning against them, stealing your strength, clouding your vision, and dulling your sensitivity to my voice. There are conversations you have avoided because you feared what honesty would cost you. There are tears you swallowed because you believed strength meant silence. There are rooms in your heart you locked because opening them once led to pain, and you promised yourself you would never feel that vulnerable again. There are patterns that have followed you year after year, cycles that seemed normal because they were familiar, family wounds passed down so long they began to feel like identity. Shadows have walked beside you not because you invited them, but because no one ever taught you that you had authority to tell them to leave. Tonight I bring these things into the light, not to shame you, not to expose you to ridicule, but to expose the chains themselves so that you can finally see them for what they are and let me break them. You cried out for breakthrough, but you feared the process that breakthrough requires, for freedom always asks you to release what you learned to rely on. And now the process begins, gently but firmly, in the quiet of your home, in the stillness of night, in moments where your spirit will not let you distract yourself anymore. You will feel a stirring you cannot explain away, a holy discomfort that asks you to stop numbing, stop running, stop postponing the work of healing. I am calling you back to a sensitivity you lost while trying to survive battles I never intended you to fight by yourself. Do not mistake my shaking for my anger. When the potter shakes the vessel, it is not to destroy it, but to remove air pockets that would cause it to crack later. When the gardener shakes the tree, it is not to harm it, but to remove parasites that steal nourishment from the fruit meant to grow. And when I shake your home, your heart, your inner world, I am removing what does not belong. What drains your clarity, what steals your peace, what convinces you that exhaustion is normal. Tonight, buried conversations will rise to the surface of your thoughts. Memories long suppressed will gently but persistently knock on the door of your awareness, not to torment you, but to be healed. I will show you the roots of certain pain, not to reopen wounds, but to finally remove what keeps reopening them. The time has come for you to confront what you have tolerated for too long. You called things normal that were never meant to be normal for a child formed by my hand. You adapted to storms you were meant to silence. You adjusted to chaos you were meant to command. You learned to live under burdens you were meant to place in my hands. Tonight I place these truths before you not to overwhelm you, but to liberate you, because I do not correct my children to destroy them, but to restore them. I do not allow shaking to break you, but to break what has been trying to break you quietly for years. Tonight I deal with what you could not see, the spiritual agreements you made in moments of weakness, the lies you believed when your heart was wounded, the identities you accepted when you were desperate for belonging. I confront them now. I break them now. I overturn them now. I reach into the depths of your being where fear, insecurity, doubt, confusion, and disappointment thought they had taken root, and I uproot every seed that did not come from me. You cried for clarity, and I am giving it. You cried for direction, and I am releasing it. You cried for peace, and I am restoring it. My disappointment was never in you. It was in what was allowed to overshadow you. You believed you were weak when I called you strong. You believed you were forgotten when I stood at your door knocking patiently. You believed your story was over when I was preparing a chapter your eyes had not yet seen. You allowed the world to define you when I spoke your identity before the foundations of the earth were laid. And tonight I remove every false identity, every false belief, every false voice that spoke louder than my truth. There will be a shift in your home tonight, but it will not be disaster arriving. It will be hindrances departing. Expect heaviness to lift, restlessness to break, clarity to rise. Expect conviction to stir within you, not the condemnation of the accuser, but the loving conviction of my spirit calling you higher. Expect the atmosphere to change, not by fear, but by my presence moving through every corner of your soul. You asked me to step into your home, and tonight I step into your heart, because the battle you thought was around you has always been within you. I will show you the conversations that must end, the habits that must die, the friendships that drain your spirit, the thoughts that sabotage your progress, the attitudes that keep you bound. You will feel my voice press upon your conscience not to shame you, but to awaken you. I will illuminate where compromise entered quietly, where distractions disconnected you from me, where subtle lies convinced you I was far away when I was closer than your next breath. Revelation will unfold gently but steadily. You will sense differently, see more clearly, discern what you once ignored. The scales that covered your spiritual eyes will fall, and the numbness that weakened your spirit will break. This is not the enemy entering your home. This is deliverance entering your home. This is not danger approaching. This is destiny drawing near. This is not chaos rising. This is my order being established. I will speak to you in ways you cannot deny, through sudden awareness, through inner conviction, through moments of stillness that feel heavy with meaning. When you feel that pull, do not run from it. That is my hand touching what you kept hidden. That is my presence healing wounds you never showed. That is my spirit calling you into alignment. What you perceived as disappointment is not rejection. It is divine urgency. It is heaven whispering, "Rise." It is a father calling, "Come higher." It is destiny reminding you there is more than the life you settled for. Nothing destructive is coming to your house. What is coming is awakening, cleansing, reordering. I sweep away the dust of old seasons, tear down the cobwebs of forgotten dreams, open the windows of your soul so the breath of my spirit can move freely again. I place fire where fatigue lived, clarity where confusion reigned, purpose where paralysis held you still. I speak with intensity because you reached a moment where comfort became more dangerous than truth. I call you into awakening not to frighten you, but because complacency grew strong, and I will not allow my purpose for your life to be swallowed by shadows pretending to be harmless. You will not sleep the same tonight, because you are crossing a threshold that requires greater awareness. I visit you not with destruction, but with divine confrontation, confronting what hinders you, not who you are. I separate guilt from conviction, fear from discernment, my voice from every counterfeit. You will recognize traps disguised as opportunity, compromises masked as wisdom, attachments dressed as love. I cleanse the atmosphere of your inner world. Suppressed emotions will rise, buried memories will surface, not to drown you, but to wash you clean. There are wounds that still bleed beneath your strength, disappointments you never surrendered, prayers you stopped praying because you thought I said no when I was preparing you for a greater yes. My disappointment was never in your humanity. I knew your weakness when I formed you. It rests in the lies you believed about yourself. Tonight I tear those garments away. You will not enter the next season dressed in labels I never gave you. You will feel fire within you, not to destroy, but to refine, to expose self-sabotage, to break repeating cycles, to remind you of the authority you misplaced, the calling you paused, the dreams you buried. I reclaim what you abandoned. I restore what you forgot. I awaken what slept. You will feel moments of deep stillness, breath slowing, thoughts clearing. These are not accidents. They are my presence recalibrating your spirit. You will sense separation taking place, not from people but from attachments that weakened your purpose. I will show you who strengthens you and who drains you, who speaks life and who speaks confusion. When I turn on the light, shadows flee. When I speak truth, deception loses power. You will feel things fall off you that you did not know were there. Freedom will rise where captivity lived. This is my work. I rearrange the furniture of your soul. I restore your hunger for my presence. You no longer need to pretend. I see the exhaustion, the hidden tears, the silent questions. This night will not end as it began. You will wake lighter, clearer, steadier. My disappointment is a signal, not a sentence. You were created for more. Tonight marks a turning point born not from time, but from surrender. I call you deeper, beyond surface living, into honesty, into healing, into destiny. I bless your mind with clarity, your heart with healing, your steps with direction, your home with peace, your future with hope. Receive this not as words, but as a shift. You are covered, strengthened, awakened, and carried forward. I am not speaking from anger, nor from disappointment as the world understands it, but from a deep, patient love that sees beyond where you stand and into the fullness of who you are meant to be. If you sense weight in my words, it is not the weight of judgment, but the weight of unrealized potential, the ache of a father who knows how much strength, wisdom, creativity, and purpose lie within you, still waiting to be fully expressed. You were never made merely to endure, to cope, to survive from one season to the next. You were formed with intention, marked with destiny, and entrusted with a capacity far greater than the limits you have learned to live within. And now you have reached a moment where remaining unchanged would cost you more than facing truth, where silence would no longer protect you but quietly diminish you. This is not the beginning of loss, it is the beginning of alignment. The stirring you feel is not destruction approaching, but restoration drawing near. The shaking is not meant to dismantle your life, but to loosen what has attached itself to you over time, habits, beliefs, fears, and patterns that slowly drained your strength while pretending to be normal. I am not collapsing your foundation. I am clearing what was built on top of it that never belonged there. You learn to adapt to pressure, to function under stress, to normalize exhaustion, and to call it maturity, but I never intended you to carry so much alone. There are conversations you postponed because honesty felt risky, emotions you buried because vulnerability once hurt you, dreams you silenced because disappointment taught you caution. You locked away parts of yourself not because you lacked faith, but because you were tired of hoping and waiting and being misunderstood. Over time, those locked doors became familiar, and you forgot what freedom once felt like. Tonight, I am gently turning the keys, not to expose you to pain, but to release you from what has quietly held you captive. Patterns that repeated year after year were not your destiny. They were signals calling for healing. Cycles passed down through generations were not curses meant to define you, but invitations for you to be the one who finally ends them. You were never weak for feeling overwhelmed. You were simply carrying weight that was never assigned to you. And now I bring these things to the surface, not to accuse you, but to free you. You asked for growth, and growth requires honesty. You asked for peace, and peace requires alignment. You asked for breakthrough, and breakthrough requires release. The restlessness you feel is not failure, it is transition. The memories rising are not punishment, they are pathways to healing. The awareness unfolding within you is not confusion, it is clarity being born. I am not dismantling your world, I am rearranging it so it can finally support the life you are meant to live. Do not mistake this inner stirring for my anger. When a craftsman shakes a structure, it is to test what is secure and remove what will not last. When a gardener prunes a branch, it is not rejection but preparation for greater fruit. And when I allow shaking in your inner world, it is because I refuse to let what drains you remain unchecked. Tonight I touch the roots, not just the surface. I address the agreements you made in moments of fear, the conclusions you drew when you were hurt, the identities you accepted when you felt unseen. I break the lies that told you you were behind, forgotten, or incapable. I remove the voices that shaped your self-image more than my truth. You were never overlooked, you were being prepared. You were never abandoned. I was nearer than you realized. You were never finished, you were only between chapters. And now I am lifting what clouded your vision so you can see clearly again. Expect heaviness to lift, not all at once, but steadily. Expect clarity to rise, sometimes quietly, sometimes suddenly. Expect conviction, not as condemnation, but as loving guidance pulling you upward. Expect your inner atmosphere to change as peace replaces tension and understanding replaces confusion. You invited me into your life, and now I move deeper, from the surface of circumstances into the core of your heart. The struggle you thought was external was often internal, a battle between who you were taught to be and who I created you to be. I will show you where habits need to end, where boundaries must be built, where attachments must loosen, where thoughts must be renewed. My voice will press gently but firmly, not to shame you, but to awaken you. I will reveal where compromise entered unnoticed, where distractions dulled your hunger, where fear quietly replaced trust. Revelation will come not as chaos, but as light. You will begin to sense more clearly, discern more sharply, and recognize what once went unnoticed. This is not darkness entering, this is light exposing what was hidden so it can no longer control you. Destiny is not approaching with noise and fear, but with quiet certainty. Order is being restored where confusion reigned. I will speak to you through awareness, through inner nudges, through moments of stillness that carry weight. When you feel drawn inward, do not resist. That is my presence restoring what was neglected. That is healing reaching places words never touched. That is alignment taking shape. What you perceived as disappointment was never rejection. It was urgency born of love. It was the call to rise beyond survival, beyond compromise, beyond the version of life you accepted, because you doubted there could be more. Nothing destructive is coming to your life. What is coming is cleansing, clarity, and renewal. I am clearing the residue of old seasons, brushing away forgotten dreams, opening space for breath, movement, and freedom. I am replacing fatigue with fire, confusion with understanding, stagnation with purpose. I speak with intensity because comfort had begun to lull you into settling, and I refuse to let your purpose fade quietly. This is an awakening, not an attack. This is confrontation meant to elevate, not intimidate. I confront what hinders you, not who you are. I separate guilt from conviction, fear from wisdom, truth from deception. You will see more clearly where you compromised unknowingly, where you lingered too long, where you accepted less than what aligned with your calling. Emotional weight will rise and release. Memories will surface and soften. Wounds will finally close instead of being managed. I never expected perfection from you. I only desired honesty. I knew your weaknesses before you ever named them. My concern was never your humanity, but the lies you allowed to define it. Tonight, those false labels fall away. You will not carry identities born from pain into the future I am preparing. You will feel a refining fire within you, not destructive but strengthening. It will awaken courage, restore authority, and remind you of dreams you thought were unrealistic but were always planted by me. I reclaim what you abandoned to survive. I restore what you silenced to belong. I awaken what you put to sleep out of fear. You will feel moments of deep calm where your thoughts align and your breath steadies. These are signs of recalibration, not coincidence. I am tuning your spirit to truth. Separation will take place, not from people out of cruelty, but from attachments that drained you. You will see more clearly who strengthens your journey and who distracts from it. Light drives out shadows without force. Truth dissolves deception without effort. You will notice burdens lifting that you did not know how to remove. This is not your labor. It is my intervention. I rearrange priorities, restore hunger, and remove the pressure to pretend. I see the exhaustion beneath your strength, the questions beneath your silence, the longing beneath your discipline. This season will not leave you unchanged. You will wake lighter, clearer, more grounded. My urgency is an invitation, not a verdict. You were created for depth, freedom, and purpose. This moment marks a turning point born not of time, but of surrender. I draw you deeper, beyond surface living, into healing, alignment, and calling. I bless your mind with clarity, your heart with restoration, your steps with direction, your home with peace, and your future with hope. Receive this shift. You are not losing anything of value. You are gaining yourself back.